Hi, my name is Casey Affleck. You might have seen me before in films, but today I'm not here as an actor, but as a person concerned about how animals, especially farm animals, are now treated in the United States. During the production of this video, we visited many schools and talked with many boys and girls about your age. Our first question to them was, describe how you imagine a farm. How do you think animals live there?
They just walk around and do whatever they want and live like how they want to live.
They have big space to run around in.
The farmers feed them and they just go around wild, doing stuff, play, eat.
They have fun living in farms because they're like having freedom and they can run around and do whatever they want.
A place with no gates, no nothing, it is free.
Most people, children and adults, think like these kids do. The pictures of animals on farms that we see portrayed in books, television commercials, magazines, and other advertisements show us happy, healthy animals running around in open spaces, eating the fresh grass from wavy green pastures, and peacefully sleeping inside nice-looking red-painted barns. But sadly, the reality of the modern farm industry is quite different from these beautiful images. In order to make the most money, farmers want to raise the most animals. They do this by keeping as many animals as they can in the smallest possible space. Farmers pack the animals in dark, huge warehouses where the animals don't have enough space or any of the things they need to live a natural life. Driving on the highway, you would never guess that a building like this one is in fact considered a farm. These buildings are called factory farms, quite different from what you had in mind, isn't it? Millions of animals live in these crowded, unnatural conditions every day of their lives, enduring what many people feel is abusive treatment. That's why Farm Sanctuary was created, to save animals from abuse, as well as to educate people about this hidden situation, so that together we can make a difference. Meet Queenie, Winnie, and Tic Tac. These three animals were rescued, saved, from very bad situations. They now live happily at Farm Sanctuary, a place where farm animals can run around, smell the fresh air, and live their natural lives in peace. We like to think of them as ambassadors for their species. An ambassador is someone who represents a country to the rest of the world. At Farm Sanctuary, Queenie, Winnie, and Tic Tac represent cows, pigs, and chickens to the human species. Let's find out a bit more about them. Pigs are amazing animals. They are smart and friendly. But before I say too much, let's see what some of you think about them.
Pigs are very smelly.
Nasty and dirty. Disgusting.
Stupid because usually they just sit around, they're lazy and stuff.
Pigs, they're really not intelligent because they just stand there honking and eat.
Wow, that's what many people think about pigs. But that's just because people don't know much about them. Most of us only know pigs as bacon, pepperoni, or ham. We don't get to meet them while they're alive. Let me tell you a few things about pigs. They like to live in groups with their families and friends. They love their families and will look after and defend each other. They constantly make sounds to communicate with each other, even singing to their newborn piglets. Just because we humans do not understand pig talk does not mean that pigs don't communicate. They love to play around and they are friendly to people too. They like to be petted and will happily roll over for belly rubs. Unlike what most people think, pigs are very clean animals if given a chance and will never soil their sleeping areas. Sure, they like to roll in mud, but there are very good reasons for that. Pigs cannot sweat, so they bathe in mud to stay cool and to protect their skins from sunburn and insect bites. Pretty smart, don't you think? Some people say pigs are even smarter than dogs. They can easily learn to respond when called by name. Pigs can be very loyal companions and have even saved human lives. A few years ago, a pig named Priscilla saw a boy she knew drowning in a lake. Immediately, she jumped into the water, swam to the boy, and using enormous effort and strength, pulled him back to shore. All right, Priscilla. Amazing. Priscilla never forgot what happened that day, and after that, she acted distressed whenever she saw children near the water. Didn't I tell you? Pigs are pretty smart animals. Hey, here's Winnie. Remember her? She's another amazing pig. She's happy now at Farm Sanctuary and enjoys the company of her friends and all the visitors who come to the farm. But her story could have been totally different. Would you like to know how she got here? Listen to this. Like most pigs, Winnie is very intelligent. When she was just a baby, she escaped from a backyard barbecue where she was going to be slaughtered and roasted for a Father's Day picnic. Winnie managed to avoid capture for almost 2 months, slipping out of a rope, breaking out of a dog trap, and disappearing when police cars came looking for her. She survived by knocking over garbage cans, drinking out of a stream, and eating apples that fell from trees. She warmed the hearts of the town's residents. Finally, when she was captured, people made a fuss, insisting that she be given a safe place to live, which is how she ended up here at Farm Sanctuary. Winnie spends most of the day with her friend Buster, also an escapee from her barbecue, swimming in the pond, rolling in the mud, and sleeping in the shade. Didn't I tell you? What a great pig. After 2 months of dodging a bunch of people who only wanted to catch and kill her, she found a wonderful, safe home at Farm Sanctuary. Winnie is one smart and lucky pig, believe me. She knew what was in store for her and split the scene. Wouldn't you have done the same thing? Unfortunately, all of these wonderful qualities of the pigs don't protect them from the stresses of factory farms. There, many female pigs have to spend nearly their whole lives in narrow crates all by themselves, unable even to turn around, just so they can keep producing piglets. Other pigs are so crowded together that they start biting each other's tails and ears out of frustration. None of them get to see the sunlight, swim in a pond, or dig in the dirt like normal pigs in nature. The factory farming system does not think of pigs as animals capable of feeling pain or having emotions. How do you think they feel?
Very crowded, squished, and mad. It looks like it's suffering, and it's not in a good home because it's stuck in that little cage. I think they feel pain because they're just stuck there. There's nowhere to move. Really, really bad. I think they feel really sad.
Yes, it sure looks that way. Pigs confined in these noisy, smelly, dark, tight spaces become very stressed and develop all kinds of physical and mental illnesses. Can you imagine how the mother pigs, called sows, feel when their piglets are taken away just a few weeks after they're born? This is done so that piglets can be raised to make bacon and hot dogs, and the mothers can be made pregnant again and again to make more and more piglets. Instead of raising their families and playing in the sunshine, the pigs are simply part of the business of factory farming.
I'm disappointed that they don't have a free life.
They're not supposed to be treated like that.
I think they felt pretty sad that they were all locked up and they couldn't go outside at all.
I don't really think pigs should live like that because just like they said to us, the main rule is to treat animals and other people the way you want them to treat you.
Millions of pigs all over the country are living like this right now. Later, we'll talk about what we can do to change that. Hey, here's Tic Tac. What a great guy. Chickens are very curious creatures. They like to explore their surroundings and use their beaks to peck the soil, searching for food. They also use their beaks for grooming and dust bathing. Dust bathing? Yes, using sand and dust, they remove the oil that builds up on their feathers. That's how they keep their feathers clean and fluffy. Chickens have excellent vision, and they are smart enough to recognize many other chickens in their very organized social groups. At night, they like to fly up to branches of trees or bushes to sleep. This is called roosting, and is a way to protect themselves from other animals. In nature, hens are also very careful to hide their nests before they lay eggs. But chickens who feel safe are very friendly animals, even with humans. In fact, some people keep chickens as companions, along with their dogs and cats, and they all manage to get along quite well. Chickens even enjoy music, just like people do. We asked some kids what they thought about chickens.
Chickens are sort of smart. They know how to hatch eggs, and they always know how to treat their babies. So to me, they're not stupid.
Chickens, they're living. They probably do sometimes the same thing as us. And God made them.
They're not really scared. Like if you try to harm their babies, they will attack you.
They have feelings for the young.
It's a very good idea that they do a dust bath.
Yeah, those dust baths are pretty neat. But unfortunately, very few chickens can take dust baths anymore. Every year in the United States, about 300 million hens provide Americans with eggs. Most of these chickens live crowded together in small cages stacked on top of each other in dark, smelly, noisy warehouses. Each warehouse holds around 80,000 hens. 80,000! Imagine what that must sound and smell like. These chickens can't even spread their wings, let alone build nests, or roost in the branches of trees, or play, or peck in the dirt with their beaks. When chickens are overcrowded, they get stressed, and they peck each other. Rather than being given more space to move around, the chickens have their beaks partially cut off. Instead of standing on dirt, these cages, called battery cages, have wire mesh flooring that hurts the chickens' feet. They develop all kinds of diseases and deformities because of the conditions in which they live. The kids we talked to had this to say about these conditions.
They were cooped up and stuff, and they couldn't move. They couldn't spread their wings or anything.
If I was a chicken, I would have felt frustrated because I don't really like being together. Like on a train when there's a lot of people, I get really mad.
I didn't know that they were kept like this in a small cage like that. I never knew that.
Very sad. And it hurts. Especially when you're taking off the nose. Ow. I don't think they actually like it there at all.
Who would have the right mind to just keep these animals like that? He's like he has no feelings for others.
It doesn't look like a very good life for a chicken, but it doesn't have to be like this. Compare how the chickens in these factory farms live with Tic Tac's life. What a difference. Not so long ago, most chickens used to live like Tic Tac does now. But then the factory farming system came into being, and egg production became a big business. It became more important to produce as many eggs as possible in the least amount of space than to show concern for the suffering of the chickens. In fact, Tic Tac used to live in one of these places until she was rescued and brought to Farm Sanctuary. You want to know her story? Tic Tac is a hen rescued from one of the largest egg factories in the country, a company that uses 15 million hens in their operation. Tic Tac was one of them, living in a battery cage in a large warehouse, much like the ones we have just seen. She would have spent her whole life trapped in a cage, laying eggs for humans to eat. Then in September 2001, a tornado struck 12 of these warehouses, leaving the buildings wrecked and the hens trapped in mangled wire cages without food or water. Farm Sanctuary and other rescue groups went to the egg farm and began the difficult task of cutting the birds out of their cages and bringing them back to the sanctuary to take care of them. Tic Tac, along with 1,500 others, were some of the lucky ones who were rescued and now live here in this open, safe sanctuary. Imagine how Tic Tac must have felt when her feet first touched real dirt. Finally, her problems were over. But there are about 300 million chickens that are still suffering as she did. That's why we call Tic Tac our chicken ambassador, because she represents and reminds us of the pain and suffering that she escaped, but that still exists for millions of others.
Queenie said, "Move over."
She escaped from a slaughterhouse in New York City.
New York City animal control officers were flooded with calls to spare the calf's life.
And here's Queenie. She's another awesome animal living at Farm Sanctuary. Wait until you hear what happened to her. I'll tell you her story, but first, let's learn some interesting facts about cows. Cows are sensitive and social animals who like to know what's going on around them and often communicate with the other members of their herd. Their senses of smell and hearing are excellent, and so are their memories. They are very responsive to the way they are treated and can remember both good and bad experiences for years. Mother cows have especially strong feelings toward their calves. Even though they may babysit for several playful calves while the other mothers graze, each mother knows which one is uniquely her own. Many cows even show affection and loyalty for humans. Cows are definitely cool.
We should treat them the same way we want to be treated.
And they need to be in a big field with grass.
I think that every animal should have freedom because we have freedom. Why can't they have freedom?
Yes, I'll bet that's what all cows would like to have. A chance to be loved, to have freedom and open pastures. But unfortunately, most cows in today's factory farms have very little freedom. That's why Queenie ran away. Let's see what you think of her story. When she was a young 500-pound cow, Queenie escaped from a meat market in New York City. She ran through the streets of Queens, surprising motorists and passers-by alike. The police finally tranquilized her and gave her to the city animal shelter. Many people made calls asking the city and the owner of the slaughterhouse not to turn Queenie into steaks, but to let her go to Farm Sanctuary. Queenie made national news with her escape, making it clear that animals have feelings too, and showing why many people choose not to eat them. She now lives happily with her new friends at Farm Sanctuary. All right, good going, Queenie. What an escape. She seemed to know very well why she was running away. Do you suppose other cows would want to do the same if they had a chance? If Queenie hadn't first been sold to the meat market, she might have been used in the dairy industry as a milker. Many people think that cows give milk simply because they're cows, but that's not the case. Just like humans, cows are mammals, so they must give birth in order to start giving milk. Also, just like us, the mothers carry their babies inside them for 9 months before they give birth. The dairy industry makes sure that each cow has a calf every single year. And modern technology has caused dairy cows to produce up to 100 pounds of milk a day, about 10 times more than they would produce in nature. This is very stressful for the cows, and many suffer from numerous health problems.
I think that the cow is the most animal that gets most hurt because they have to milk it.
And if that weren't stressful enough, mother cows used in the dairy industry also have to deal with having their calves taken away from them, often the very day they are born. If a cow is a female, she will be raised to replace her mother, keeping the cycle of being trapped, having babies, and giving milk going. If the calf is a male, he will be immediately taken away and chained in a narrow crate, too narrow for him even to turn around, and raised to be killed after 4 or 5 months for his soft white meat called veal. The meat stays white because the calf is given a liquid milk substitute which contains no iron or fiber. This diet causes anemia, making the calf very weak and prone to diseases. About 1 million of these baby bulls every year end up in crates being raised for veal. They will never see a pasture. They will never play with other calves. Eating grass or building muscles would make their meat darker and tougher, so it might bring in less money. This method of raising calves in crates is considered cruel by many people. In fact, many countries have already made it against the law, and several states in this country are considering outlawing it as well. The veal industry argues that there is a demand for this type of veal. We asked some students how they felt about it.
I feel sorry for cows because like when they take them away from their children, they can't only stay with them for like only 2 days, and that's not right.
I think they feel like sad because they want to be with their mother and they don't want to go in their cages so they can't move. And they want to be with their mother so they can live happy.
Don't they have to break down all their resistance? Do they have to torture them? Do they have to keep them like they did the worst thing in the world?
If I were that calf, I'll be very sad. I'll go crazy.
I feel very disappointed that I'm part of it because they are doing that for we could eat it. And it's very sad the way they bleeding and I think they're not very happy there. Mm-hmm. So why should we be a part of it?
Why should we be part of it? Good question. Do you want to be part of this? Here's what some kids had to say.
We could turn into vegetarian but still eat like less meat.
There's nothing to do because in the world we do need milk.
It's almost like polluting the water, but you're polluting animals you're just killing them for just food.
I think they're just greedy for money because when you sell the chicken meat in the supermarket, they always give you money, so that means they're greedy because they want to kill the chicken for money.
They do it for us, like for we could get strong, for we could eat, because when we eat meat, we get strong.
You could still be healthy because there's a lot of things you could eat instead of meat, like spaghettis, lettuce, tomato, broccoli, a lot of things that make you strong.
I feel sad to kill animals. They don't tell us about this because they want us to eat meat for money.
Besides money, I think that they just don't know the amount of life. They don't know like the price that life has on it.
What is not fair is that the animals have to die, and then we have to eat them. And if we don't eat them, we die and they stay alive.
These are very interesting comments. You may have similar thoughts or questions in your mind, perhaps about what we need to stay healthy. So let's talk about good nutrition and a healthy diet. Many people think that if you don't eat meat and eggs or drink milk, you'll get weak or even sick. This is hardly ever true. There are millions of people who do not eat meat or eggs or drink milk, yet stay very strong and healthy. Some of them are even Olympic athletes. Of course, you need a proper balanced diet with vitamins, minerals, proteins, and all the rest. But you can get all of those things, minus all the fat and cholesterol that comes with meat, eggs, and milk, in other products that you can find in most supermarkets. In fact, many doctors feel that we would be much healthier if we cut way down on the amount of meat, eggs, and dairy products we consume, or cut them out altogether. But it is not only our health that would improve if we switched to a plant-based diet. Obviously, as we have seen, we would spare the animals a lot of suffering. But we could also help keep our environment cleaner. The environment? Yes, here's how it works. In order to raise animals for food, we have to grow huge amounts of corn and other grains to feed them and use enormous amounts of water, not just for the animals to drink, but also to grow the grain they eat and to keep the farm operating. This is very wasteful of our precious water supply, and it's not a very efficient way to grow food for the world's growing population. Let me give you an example. Let's say I have 12 pounds of corn and 12 pounds of wheat, and I want to feed as many people as possible. With the 12 pounds of corn, I could make 54 bowls of cornflakes. With the 12 pounds of wheat, I could make 12 loaves of bread. Or I could take 12 pounds of either grain and feed it to a cow. If that cow were then ground up into hamburger, guess how much meat I would get back from my 12 pounds of grain? Only 1 pound. So we could definitely feed a lot more people if we ate the grain directly rather than feeding it to cows. But Americans eat a lot of meat. That means a huge amount of grain is being produced just to feed all the cows, pigs, chickens, and other animals that are being raised for food. In fact, 80%, or 4/5, of all the corn we raise in the United States is eaten by animals. But so what? It's a big country, right? One problem is that we have to cut down millions and millions of trees to make room for all this farming, destroying homes of birds and forest animals in the process. And to make things worse, with all this industrial farming comes heavy use of pesticides, chemicals, and fertilizers, which make their way into our streams and rivers and sometimes into our drinking water. Studies show that about half of the water wells in rural America are already polluted, partly because of the enormous amount of animal waste from factory farms. The good news is we can change all of this. We need to let our legislators know how we feel so that laws concerning the treatment of animals can be changed. And every time we sit down to eat, we can help by changing our diets, even if it's just a little bit. How can we stop factory farming? Well, some of you had some very good suggestions.
I think that we could go to the chicken place and the farms and tell them by face, like, stop doing this to other animals.
You could tell the cafeteria people not to give us meat or anything like that.
It made me feel bad, and I only eat meat like just very less.
Okay.
And I used to, because every day I eat meat, most of the time. Now I only eat meat like once a week, twice.
I would talk to the governor and tell him if we could have a vote to see who wants them to be free.
We could not kill them, and we could give them better pastures, and we don't have to keep them cooped up in little pens.
I will write letters telling them that they're not doing the right thing to the animals. I will also adopt one.
Those are all very good ideas. And you know what? They can work. If enough people speak out and get involved, laws do change. In Florida, for example, a lot of people were upset about the narrow crates where mother pigs were kept while they were pregnant. As a result, they got a law passed outlawing those crates. So why not discuss with your friends, teachers, and parents what you have seen in this video? Perhaps you can write letters to your senators, representatives, and governor expressing your feelings. And to get more information about any of the subjects we have been discussing, please visit Farm Sanctuary's website at www.farmsanctuary.org. Together, we can make a difference.